We're going to read, we are doing chapter 17. So let me start. Welcome everybody to 52 Living Ideas. We're going through Bhagavad Gita. We're on chapter 17. We are going to start with verses 5 and 6. We're going to have one reading in English, and then Yogeshwar is going to talking about these two verses. Then we're going to open it up for any comments or questions. All right. Ambika, if you could read verses 5 and 6.
Those men who exert themselves in violent ascesis, not ordained by the Shastra, yoked to vanity and arrogance and egoism, filled with the force of desire and passion, devoid of sense and intelligence, torment the organization of the physical elements constituting the body, and also torment me, dwelling within the inner body. Know them as of Asuric resolves.
Thank you. Yogeshwar?
अशास्त्र विहितं घोरं तप्यन्ते ये तपोजनाः दम्भाहंकार संयुक्ताः कामरागबलान्विताः. So Krishna has made a distinction between three categories. There are these three categories of people who go according to their own Shraddha. Shraddha is what they are. There is nothing else apart from that. Yeah? Three types of Shraddha, that is the Satwika Shraddha, the Rajas Shraddha, and the Tamas Shraddha. Those are the three types of Shraddha. And they go by their own nature of how their Shraddha takes them. As we have looked at, the Tamasa Shraddha takes them into what has already happened, as in it takes them in the past, the Bhuta. The Rajasa Shraddha takes them into the future, because they have to have a longing for wealth. They have to have a longing for something, a desire for something. So that's taking them into the future. We could take these two as perspectives of mind, whereby we have one aspect of mind which is called memory. And it comes with a lot, not just memory of thought, but there's also memory of emotions, whereby when you look at someone, you feel a particular way. And every time you do look at that person, there is that particular emotion that comes into your mind. That is all part of memory. It's all part of sanskara. So a person who is living by the past, and then there's another person who is living by the future only, whereby he is always longing for the things in the future, always grasping onto desires, always grasping onto something that is into his imagination, because imagination is also a faculty of the mind. So he's going into his imaginations, trying to grasp something out of it. A person who is Satwika, he is in the middle, like he's in the present now. He is worshipping the Devas. Now, what the Devas are, something that take you towards the Brahman. He can walk by a garden full of roses. Yeah? He will not be thinking about the past. He will not have emotions about the past. He will also not be imagining something of the future. He will not be running behind something while he's in the garden. He will be in the garden. And he will know what the roses are trying to communicate to him. He will know what the roses feel like, what their breeze feels like. what this scent feels like. That is a type of person who is Satwika. And his Shraddha, meaning some things that will take to his mind, some things that are important in his mind. So you see what the difference is according to a person, his perspective. For a person who is always living in the past, he will attach so many emotions together. He will attach the bad emotions or the good emotions together. A person who is always living in the future will attach imagination, that this is what I can do with the flowers in the future, or this is how I can get money out of them, or this is how I can get so many people to come here. Whereas a person who is Sattvika will take the experience as it is. What is the experience telling me? What is Brahman telling me through the manifest? That is what he's looking for. Those are the three types of people according to Shraddha. Now, when Arjuna asks the question that Ye Shastra Vidhimutsrijya Yajante Shraddhayanvita, they have left the essence of the Shastras and they are going by Shraddha. You can see that Shraddha in them. You can see that they're pointing in some direction. What happens to them, oh Krishna? Now, Krishna has made these three categories. And looking at so many commentaries, you can see that these two verses, 4 and 5, they are commentaries which put 4 and 5, the 5 and 6, into the category of the tamasa. But how I'll try to look at these two. Try to put those three categories different, and then make this a fourth category. What comes out of it? Yeah? We know people who do business. That's fine. Even in the Shastras, like there is a category for the Vaishyas, doing business, how to do business, interest, and how to do farming, all that. You should do it according to the Shastra. It is not that you shouldn't do it. What this fourth category is saying, that there are those subtle wrong things that happen even within that. Yeah? It's not wrong to be Rajasa. It is wrong to have that Kama Raga Balanvitaha, Dambha Ahankara Sanyukta. Those are the wrong things that happen within even the correct things happening in the world. Now, you can't tell someone, don't be Rajasi because it takes you towards the wrong path. Or don't do business. The thing is, do business without the vices that are in there. Now, how I would like to interpret these verses is, Ashastra Vihitam Ghoram. When Krishna is saying Ashastra, meaning that everything is written in the Shastras. Doing the Rajasa type of karma, doing the Tamasa type of karma, even doing the Sattvika type of karma. And the Vedas are vast. That's why even understanding the Vedas is difficult, because they have talked about all types of people. It's all inclusive. It's not said that only this type of people, but it's just said these type of people, even this type of people. It's given the ways of life for everyone. Even a person who is of Tamasa Prakriti, it is given a life for them. How to get to Brahman using that. That's fine. But then those wrong things that happen within, whereby a person himself is Rajasa type of person. He is always wanting to work. But then what happens there is he is always wanting to work in the wrong way, not something that is accepted by society, something that is accepted by his own nature. not something that is accepted by his surrounding and his own nature. He's just deviating from it. One example would like to give is that in normal, like modern days, yeah, we know doctors and business people who are good, like they go by the society. They have their own values that they stick to. That is a good way of doing business. It's a good way of being a doctor. Now, what about those doctors who are in the profession? Being a doctor is not wrong, but then there are those doctors who are in the profession, but then they do the profession for, like, to get money out of people, only for that reason. They don't care about the values. They don't care about the essence of the Shastras. Why that the essence of what being a doctor means is left out. But then they only take the instrumental or the material, what is seen from above. They remove the values from within. They remove the essence from within. The same to any profession. Being a businessman, being a teacher. Now, what we should understand is even professions have their own gunas. Different professions are of different kinds. Not any profession is good or bad. All professions are on their own right. But then what we see normally is that some professions normally get so many vices at a particular time in history. There are some professions that go down the wrong path. Not necessarily that the profession itself was wrong, but then the essence of that profession was lost. The essence of that was lost. It's the same thing with any traditional practice in any religion. What happens is practice goes on and the essence is lost. Ashastra vihitam, ghoram, tapyante ye tapojana. And you can see that those people, they are burning the fire day and night. They're burning the midnight candle even. But then what are their intentions? They can go even at night for any surgery or even any business meeting or anything. But what is in there at the back of their mind? You can see that there is a certain type of tapa, meaning that they are, in essence, they are burning their own mind, burning their own body. But what does it mean to be in that profession? That has been lost. Dambha ahankara sanyukta. Yeah? Those people, because they can't show their real face in their profession. Because being a doctor, like just imagine, being a doctor or being a nurse, it has to have so much care for the other person. It has to have so much value for the other person. Now, what happens is they show that they do have value for other people by giving them advice that could help them. But at the back of their mind, it's just for the money, or it's just for the value, the reputation of their own hospital. Now, that should never happen in any practice, in any profession, anywhere. That is what Krishna is saying, that dambha, meaning that you can't show who you truly are out to other people. You're going to hide your values, your own values. And then ahankara sanyukta. Any profession is supposed to take away, strip off your ego, your ahankara. It is supposed to allow you to serve other people. it's supposed to allow you to serve yourself as well on the road of getting towards Brahman. Whereas what happens is there's so many marketing strategies that are got for a particular type of profession to become famous, or a particular type of product to become famous. When those marketing strategies are used, they, anything that starts, it starts for the good. Like anyone who is giving out a marketing strategy for a good product will start out good. It will start out with the right intention. But what happens in the middle, the marketing, advertisement, getting out to people becomes so much that the product itself loses the value. And when that happens, you realize that sometimes it becomes ahankara sanyukta. It's like only ours is the right one. What others are providing is wrong. Only what we are providing is right. Let it be in any profession, whether it's even teaching. Even teaching gets these certain points here. Yes, Shrikant, you want to say something?
No, I'm just clearing out the chat. Go ahead.
Okay. No, I can see exclamation mark.
Yeah, you can just ignore it. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. And then another thing, kama raga balanvita. Yes. One thing is kama, meaning that always wanting to go into the future. It is one thing whereby a person who feels he has a new product and wants to give it to the people, a new software and wants to give it to the people, a new type of teaching and wants to give it to the people. But then where karma comes, where desire comes, it deviates the person's mind, whereby he will now start having desires of money, desires of fame. There is one aspect of fame which is right, whereby if so many people know you, you can do the right thing at the right time. But then getting fame for its own right, like living alone, contributing right to so many people, or contributing in the right way to yourself as well, living that and then only getting to fame, like how so many people know me, whereby there's so many ways now that so many people can know you, how fame could be known through these various media pathways, whether it's Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat, even WhatsApp. Yeah, so many ways we are trying to show people that we are existing on this planet. Is it for the other person's good? That's what we have to check. Or is it for my own ego satisfaction? Is it only for my fame that I'm doing that? Or does it contribute something good to the other person? And even you can see all these media platforms, sometimes the basic ground of it, like where they came from, is good. Why they evolved is good. But then somewhere in the middle, something happens whereby when it gets to the masses, the trajectory changes. Where it's going changes, because now they have to adapt to the masses. They have to adapt of what the masses want, what people want, not what the first category of people wanted. And not only karma, not only desire to become the best, but even raga, balanvita. So they are with all these different types of desires, different types of egos, different types of faces that are put on top. That being said here. Krishna is saying that this is how even the most righteous of things can get polluted. And when you're doing that, you are doing it out of the essence of Shastras. Whereas a person who is innately Rajasic is not bad. A person who innately wants to give something towards the public is not bad. It can be done for the good. A person who is tamasic as well, yeah, if he is innately tamasic, it's not bad. Where that line of good and bad goes, like good and bad in the aspect of going towards Brahman and going away from Brahman, where that comes in is that whereby I may be Rajasic in my Swabhava, but what do I do? When I see that there is work in front of me that I do not like, yeah, what I do is give excuses that I have to do something else, or that I haven't gotten rest in so many days. So many excuses that you can give, or that I do not have time for it. Yeah? Now, what we need to understand here is that there are those genuine excuses. We also have to make a distinction between that. There are those genuine excuses that are genuine, but then there are also those types of excuses whereby I know that I have an excuse, so I can evade doing that work. Whether that excuse is true or not, I can just be sleeping, but then because nobody else knows, I can say I was doing some work. Like you can see, I was doing this type of work, so I couldn't finish up what you had told. When you start giving those types of excuses, the dambha comes in. Those faces you have to put become extra. Whereas being just who you are is not a bad thing in any way. Karshayantah sharirastham bhutagramamachetasa mam chaivantah sharirastham tan vidhyasura nischayan. What do? They check their own body even beyond the limits of anything. You can see people who are attracted towards money, even in the wrong way. Yeah? They take their body and their mind to the limits, even beyond the limits, because they want to achieve that, whether it's fame, whether it's money, anything. And not only their own bodies, but Bhutagramam as well. They take the people who are around them together beyond their limits. Now, taking them beyond their limits in one aspect is not bad, because it takes them towards their full potential of what they could be. But then having this wrong idea in your mind that it is only for my fame that this should happen, that is where the pollution comes in. That is where the vice comes in. Not only that, Mam Chaiva Anta Sharirastha. Not only himself or the people around are disturbed, but Mam Chaiva Anta Sharirastha. I am the unmanifest that is in all the manifest. I am the principle of all life. I am the life of all lives. He also pulls me by his desires and takes me all around. And how should you talk about them? Tan Vidyasura Nischaya. Those people are Nischaya, meaning they absolutely, like you can see that. They are Asuri of Mati. Now, we should see what Krishna is trying to say here. All professions of all types, let it be being in the army, being a business, being a teacher, being a doctor, being a nurse. they all have their own innate gunas of their own kind. Yeah? Some professions have to be more Rajasic, like being at the border of the country, being in the army. It has to be more Rajasic. Being a nurse, yeah, it has to be more care towards other people. Yeah? It's like two different types of professions that need different types of qualities. And those qualities feel like they're east and west. But then, like, the main thing in the middle of all those is that you are doing the right thing at the right time, in the right place. You are not doing it for your family. You're not doing it for the money. You're doing it for that profession and what that profession means. You're doing it, you're sacrificing for what that profession means to sacrifice for. Not for yourself, not for the ego, rather. That is what Krishna is saying, that being in their own guna is fine, and it is Shastra Vidi. And these two verses are a fourth category, whereby you start with the gunas, but somewhere in the middle, in the profession, when you start being known by so many people, or when money starts flowing in, any of the two, something wrong happens in the middle. And that is what Krishna is pointing at, that this should be taken out of it. And if this is taken out, the essence will remain, the essence of the profession. And then you'll start seeing how even the smallest of professions can take you towards Brahman. Because in the Vedas and in all the stories of Mahabharata or the Puranas, you can see that even the smallest profession is valued. Like even cleaning is valued. And even philosophizing is also valued. Like making all these debates, all that is valued. And even fighting for your country or fighting at the border or being in the police, anyway, is valued. So the Kshatriya was valued on its own right. And even the Vaishya or the Shudra, they were all valued in their own right. And it was said that all can get to Brahman without changing their profession. They just need to do their profession right.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Yogeshwar. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to try to talk about my summary of what you've said. And this is a really core point about the psychology. I love the word Shraddha. Shraddha is holding on to truth. It's about these three different ways of Shraddha, of holding on to what you think is truth. There's one kind of people who are holding on to the past. These are the people full of inertia. These are the people who are on the path of destruction. They get angry when anything goes away from the past, wherever they are kind of focused on. So it's kind of looking backwards. And that is the tamas. There is people who are focused on the future, focused on their desires, focused on creating new things. The previous tamas is kind of focused on destruction because they are focused on things that are dying, actually. The Rajas people are trying to create things, but their Shraddha is focused on the results of it. They're focused on things like, for example, fame. What do people think of me for doing this? Not focused on the virtue itself, but the results. The third kind of Satwik Shraddha, it is true focus on the truth. it is focused on the present. It is focused on the universal principles, universal truths operating now. It is full of consciousness. It is all about being conscious, fully conscious, as opposed to being attached either to the past or to the future. It is focused on the eternal. It is not focused, so it is like eternal now. So it is being focused on the eternal now, as opposed to being attached to the past or attached to your expectations or desires about the future. So that's how I understand it. Folks, now I want to open it up for any comments and any questions on just this part. Go ahead and type exclamation mark if you would like to comment or ask questions. Evanik.
I just want to make a quick comment on what you were saying about the chakras. And it's so true. I think what you're saying is, if you're focused on the past, then you're focused on something that's dead or dying, right? And if you're living in that past, I like the example that Yogeshwar gave in the beginning, where he talked about when you see a person and they evoke an emotion, right? And the question is, why are they evoking that emotion in you? Like, why do you have that emotion when you're seeing that person and you're reacting to the past? So you're reacting not only to something that's already happened, but in a sense, you're letting the past control your emotions now, in the present, and you're bringing back all of the pain or all of the hurt that you may have felt, because you're focused back there and you're focused on that emotion. And if you focus on that person, even if they know it or if they don't know that they've caused you pain, and you're still allowing them to affect your presence at this moment and not be focused on what is in front of you, then in a sense, it's kind of like you're dying too. Like you're living in something that doesn't exist anymore. It happened. When it happened, it existed. After it happened, it was over. And I know that's easier said than done. And I get it, but it's such a good point. I just couldn't let that go. And I think I love the simple fact that the future is desires, because it's like, as I said before in previous meetups, I still, I don't see desire as wrong, but I can see if that's what your focus is on, and you're just focused on filling your desires and nothing else. It seems, I guess it just seems a little bit futile. I don't know if that's the word I'm looking for, but when you're attached, I think, to your desires is where it goes awry. And I think being attached to those desires, because if you don't get that outcome that you want and you're attached to it, it affects you. Like, it affects who you are as a person and how you act and how you react and how you interact with the world. Because if you're the type of person that thinks that you're going to get everything you desire, then you're not in reality. You're not in the present, which is the part I really love, is being in the present, noticing what's in front of you. Like your Yogeshwar was using the example of the garden, and noticing the person that's present notices the rose. They notice all the surroundings and they're present to what's going on. And when you really focus on the present and you're not living in the past and you're not attached to the desires of the future, then you could just enjoy life. And like you said, be conscious of it. And enjoying life doesn't mean like every moment's pleasant, but it's just taking it for what it is and doing the best you can with it, and then moving forward and allowing even the moments that are not so great to help you grow. So I just love this whole thing. Thank you.
Yogeshwar, would you like to comment anything?
No, it's.
Thank you. George, what's your question? Oh, just a second, I have to unmute. Go ahead, George. What's your question?
Thank you, Shrikant. Yes, Yogeshwar, first a quick comment. You mentioned how some doctors go into the profession for the wrong reason or not the best reason. And like, I learned a long time ago that, when we're doing good, even if it's not for the best reason, for example, if a doctor, is saving so many lives and, but he went in to it for the money, he's still saving those lives. So that, that's, I think, an important point to keep in mind. And then my question to you, Yogeshwar, is like, at what point do you believe that the money in any profession begins to interfere with the virtue, the highest virtue of the work?
Thank you, George. Go ahead, Yogeshwar.
So, as we have pointed out, there are points in time whereby that profession or that type of work is done for its essence, for what it brings to the person himself and the society at large. Now, when things are flowering in the right way, whereby we can see that the fruits are coming out, doctors are saving lives and teachers are teaching in the right way, that's fine. Like, it goes on right. But then in the middle, whereby outside it may remain the same, whereby doctors may still be saving lives, teachers may still be teaching the right way, and like the police may be doing their work in the right way as well. But then there is that part whereby if their own heart changes, if their own mind changes and sticks to something else apart from their profession on its own, and this, whereby Krishna has said the point, told us the point about doing work, but not getting attached to the fruits. Like, knowing the fruits will come, that's fine. But then getting attached to the fruits is the wrong way of approaching karma, the wrong way of approaching action. You can do the work of a doctor, yeah, for the people, like for the profession itself, for what the essence is made of. But then when you start doing it for the money, for the fame, like your own insight changes. How you'll start doing things change, because you'll want to get the most of what you want out of the profession, rather than give the profession yourself. Those are two different things about it.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Yogeshwar. I mean, one of the crucial things about Gita, and we've been reading, all of us have been reading Gita for a long time. And when you look at it, what you're really looking at is the ideal where your inner and outer is all together. It is not looking at the outer being achieved at the expense of the inner. So it is saying that it has to all come together. The outward action can look the same, but it doesn't mean that it is the same inside, looked at it from inside. And this entire Gita is about this union, proper union between the inner and the outer. The Western mind is mostly focused on the outer and tries to evaluate it by itself, whereas Gita is all about this integration. That's why it's different. All right, let's go to the next ones. Ambika, could you go ahead and read from 7 to 10?
Yes. Okay. And even the food of everyone is agreeable in the triple way. So also the yajna, tapas, yajna sacrifice, tapas ascesis, and dana giving. Here is the distinction. Listen. Foods that promote and increase life, energy, strength, health, gladness, and cheers, which are succulent and soft, and sustaining and satisfying, are dear to the Satwik people. Bitter, sour, salty, extra hot, pungent, dry, and burning are the foods relished by the Rajasic people. Pain and grief and disease are the consequences they yield. You want me to do 10 as well?
10 as well.
That which is spoiled and tasteless, rotten and stale, remnant, half eaten by others and impure, is the food liked by the Tamasic people.
Thank you. Yogeshwar.
आहारस्त्वपि सर्वस्य त्रिविधो भवति प्रियः यज्ञस्तपस्तथा दानं तेषां भेदमिमं शृणु. Krishna is saying that because Shraddha makes a person, for that reason, if Shraddha is of three types, then even the outward life, what you show outside, will be of three kinds. And one important thing that Indian philosophy does is that how do you know a person is of certain kind? It shows you some specific directions, some specific principles that if this is shown on the outside, you can infer to the inside that this may be how the inside is. That is one aspect of looking at these types of principles. Another aspect is this, that Krishna is saying that what you are, you should know. Not for others, not for looking at others, but then look at the inside. If you are doing something that is of a kind on the outside, then you yourself are like that. And that I take as more valuable as a principle. That instead of putting a frame onto others, Krishna rather is telling Arjuna that put a frame onto yourself. Who are you? Where do I fit in into these three categories? Because just talking about the Shraddha hasn't told Arjuna about everything. Because Shraddha is just at the core of your heart. When that core is translated onto the manifest, is translated into your action, is when you start having a feel of who you truly are. That's why Krishna here is saying that even the type of food that you eat, something like that, is valuable in showing you who you truly are, what type of person you are. Even the type of yajna, the type of sacrifices you make in your life. Because there's so many times whereby we have 2 or 3 options that we have to check. Now, within those 2 or 3 options, none of them is virtually bad. And these situations happen in our life. None of them is virtually bad. Like all of them are of the right kind. But then the choice that you make out of those, you're sacrificing the other 2 for the one choice that you're making. Now, the type of sacrifices you make in your life makes about who you are, because that action has shown you what your core is. That manifest action has shown you what your unmanifest is. What type of Shraddha, because Shraddha is also something that is not prominently shown in your life. You don't really see it. Rather, you see your actions. Rather, you see the type of food that you eat. Then Krishna is continuing that even tapas, even that which you do, like for example, Even studying is a type of tapa, because you have to do something in a way that you have to burn the midnight candle to study. There is an essence of tapas that is coming in there. Even dana, even the type of donations that you give, with what mindset you give, and to whom you give, matters a lot. They have these thin differences in between them, the thin lines that when you cross these lines, it becomes of a different type. And throughout this whole chapter, you can see that aspect. If you want to put that aspect on this whole chapter, you can see the aspect of the tamasa being of the past and the rajasa being of the future, whereas the Satwik is for the essence of life, is for the present. Ayu sattva bala rogya sukha priti vivardhanaha rasya snigdha sthira radya ahara satvika priyaha. What does a person who is of a sattvic nature do? Ayu, sattva, bala, arogya. Now, the end of this whole line is vivardhana, meaning it increases all this. It increases your age, that type of food that you're eating. It increases your sattva, meaning the quality that you are in, your sattva. So what Krishna is trying to say here is that it's a two-way thing. Yeah? Because you're sattvic, you eat that type of food. Because you eat that type of food, again you become sattvic. It's like a two-way thing, not just a one-way. It's a two-way. Now, using this two-way kind of approach, yeah, we can also see that there are two types of tradition. Some that go from the type of shraddha they have, and others, they go from eating a particular type of food, and that will take them to that particular type of shraddha that they want to manifest. And looking at them, none of them is right or wrong. Both of them have their good qualities within them if they build their essence. What happens is when they lose their essence, when this type of tradition whereby they change their type of food to get that type of shraddha within themselves, within their hearts, when that loses their essence, losing their essence meaning that they only focus on the type of food that they're eating, leaving alone what type of shraddha is manifesting within them. Then when they start losing the essence is where it goes wrong. And then when the type of food that they're eating determines their whole life, whereby they start seeing other people as that now they can never change. They have no aspect of change in their life. That mind fixing that comes with that is where they lose their essence. Bala, meaning it increases their energy. Now, energy here, Krishna is not only saying physical energy. Krishna is saying all sorts of energy, whereby they can do something with their body physically is fit. Their mind as well has that strength of doing anything of capacity. They can concentrate for long periods on something. They have that energy. And they also have this life energy within themselves. They're full of life. There's no point in time that you'll see that they're deprived of life or that they're sad in any kind of life, in any aspect of life. They're always full of energy. And when a person is full of energy, you see that energy Now that is what Krishna is saying, bala. Arogya, meaning it increases your health. That type of food that you're eating, it increases your health. Sukha priti vivardhana. It increases the amount of bliss that you continuously get. The peace that you have with yourself, with your surrounding, it increases. And then priti, also the amount of ecstasy that you experience, the amount of love that you experience. Such a person who is eating such types of food, just even like eating a mango, simple mango, he will see all the love that nature has given him, like just in that eating. It's not that he needs these different types of spices for his taste. What he only needs is something nature has given him. And he will see what the tree has gone through to provide this for him. And you will see the love towards nature. And love is always two sides. Like you will see the love that nature is giving him, and he will automatically, the love for nature will arise. Rasya, meaning these types of food that are full of life. They're watery, they're full of taste. Now, when we do these three, when we compare these three, is when we'll get what type of ahara, what type of food we are in. So, snigdha, meaning that which allows you to concentrate, pay attention for a long time. Yeah? You can put your mind to one thing for a long time. Sthira and hridyaha. So these types of ahara, these types of, they show what type of person you are. Yeah? Katwam lalavanat tikshna ruksha vidahina aharas rajasasyeshta dukha maya pradaha. Krishna here is now saying that whereas for a person who is of a Rajasic type, they will have a different type of food that they like. Katu, amlaha. Now, there are so many types of food in the world, and there are so many types of vegetables, there are so many types of spices that you can put. So, what type of spices you like, it determines what type of person you are. Yeah? There are those bitter kinds of food. Like, it's not fruity bitter, because there are also some fruits that are bitter. But then it is like these other kinds of bitter, like extreme bitter, extreme sour, that Krishna is talking about. Ati lavana, meaning they have that much salt in them. That's when it gets to their taste. Now, one thing to note here, just a contrast, because without contrast and comparing, we won't know what it actually means between these three. So just a small comparison. A person who is of Rajasi nature, anything he eats, he will need this something that gets to his taste, something that gets to his tongue in an extreme way. Even something like a vegetable salad, he can't eat it on its own. He needs that extra salt in it. He needs the extra. So what we need to notice here is that it's not that the Satwik person doesn't get the taste out of it. He gets the full taste out of it. In fact, I would like to say that Satwik person gets more taste out of natural foods than a Rajasic person. And because he's able to get that much taste out of it, just the vegetable or just the fruit is enough. He doesn't need to add an extra spice on it. Just that is enough because he can get all the taste out of it. And this taste is natural. He can feel it. Whereas a person who is of a Rajasic kind, he will need these extra types of tastes on top because his tongue, in a way, is always wanting something more than is. In a way, his tongue for the present doesn't exist because there is that extra that he needs to put so that he knows that his tongue exists. Even in our daily lives, like we can see different types of people. There are some types of people, they cannot sit on their own. They need to be scratching their body in any way. They need to be moving their body in any kind of movement, either moving their legs or moving their hands continuously. They can't sit. So what do you see out of that? You see that they are not able to stay as they are. If they want to sit, they can sit. If they want to stand, they can stand. If they want to walk, they can walk. That doesn't happen for them. Even when they're seated, they want to move one part of their body constantly. And that shows that there is that movement that is calling from within. They can't just sit as they are. They can't just sit concentrating on one thing. Their mind moves vastly. Like it's thinking about the Gita right now, and then it's thinking about something in the next moment. So the mind is continuously moving through different kinds of sense objects. The mind cannot stick to one thing. In essence, what we could say there is their mind needs that kind of saltiness in it. It needs the kind of different sense objects to it for it to feel alive, for it not to get bored. That Krishna is saying that is a quality of the Rajasa person. Tikshna ruksha vidhaina. So tikshna meaning that kind of taste that is chilly in a way. So the chilliness brings life to them. Without the extra salt, without the extra chili, without the extra bitterness, they wouldn't feel lively in eating their food. Ahara rajasa syeshta, dukha shokamaya prada. So what they forget in trying to make their tongue feel alive is that some kinds of food will be detrimental to their own health. So they do not regard health, whereas the Satwik person regards health. They regard their tongue taste more. So those types of food can become in the long term, some in the short term and many in the long term. They become those types of food that bring dukkha, it brings sorrow to them, and it brings shoka, meaning even worse types of pains. It includes grief. Yeah? It's not only pain, but now it brings grief to them. And it also brings amaya, meaning it brings disease to them, to their body. So the type of person we are and what types of food we like, we can see what type of person we are here. So mostly we tend to be a type of person who is of a Rajasic nature. We need something that approaches our tongue. We need something that makes us feel lively, that makes us feel that we are alive. if something is a normal fruit or vegetable or just a normal type of food, we feel that it doesn't have taste. Whereas we forget that, is it that it doesn't have taste? Is it that the food doesn't have taste? Or is it that our tongue has become less receptible to taste? Because we know even in normal, like tests that they do on normal people, one article that I was reading included a test that was done on sugary stuff like chocolates and ice cream. So when a person first eats ice cream, so there was a control group that was put, and then one group that was put on ice cream and chocolates for like 2 months in a row. They get an ice cream, they get a chocolate for 2 months in a row, every day for their life. What happens then? And then there was a control group. For 2 months, they didn't get such extreme types of sweets. They got the normal food, like what we eat every day. They got the normal food, but not extreme types of sweet things like sugary stuff like ice cream or chocolate. Now, what happened? They after doing that, like they tested them, their blood levels, their anxiety levels, they did their brain scans to see how much excitement they're getting within their brains when they're eating, yeah? Or when they're shown some types of pictures of ice cream or chocolate in front of them. What types of desires or excitements do they get? So they tested them at the start of the experiment and then at the end of the 2 months. So what they found out there is that those who are continuously eating chocolate and ice cream, just being shown a picture of chocolate and ice cream, nothing happens in their mind, like no excitement. Even eating a chocolate or ice cream became non-exciting for them because they did it over long periods of time, every day. What would excite them now is 2 ice creams and 2 chocolates, something more than they were getting. Whereas for the control group, what would excite them? Even half a chocolate was enough to excite their mind. Like it would taste fabulous for them. And here we get some type of experience of what we are doing to our minds. What are we trying to do? What are we training our minds to do? Because our minds are in our hands. Yeah, we train it in every kind of perspective. In that respect, what types of food are we eating? What types of food are we getting used to matters for a long period of time. And then even being attached to one food for a long period of time. What does it do to your mind? What does it do to your body? We know to the body, any kind of food, however good it may be, if it's used for extensive periods of time, only one particular type of food, then what will happen is you'll deprive yourself of the other vitamins or the other proteins that you're supposed to get. Yeah? Because you're using only one kind of food. So getting attached anywhere is detrimental to your health. So what the Satwika type of person does is, yes, every type of food, a balanced diet is what he's going for, not attracted to his taste, not attracted only to his mind, what his mind is asking for. Yatayamam gatarasam uti paryushitam chayat uchishtam cha medhyam bhojanam tamasa priyam. Yatayamam, those types of food that have been cooked over a long period of time, before so long. Yeah? Gatarasam, some types of food, like even some types of fruits, when they're kept here for a long time, they go on to, like, they do not stay as well as they were. Like, for example, any mango would go bad or if you put it for a long period of time outside. When it's ripe, it's at the right portion. Yeah? But then when it stays for a long period of time, then there's a different type of taste that comes in. Puti, paryushitam chaya. Those that are cold types of food. Yeah? Now, one thing would like to even try to experience in your own life. If you're continuously taking cold types of food, then even your digestive system, it will get used to that cold type of food. Whereas the digestive system itself, like if you see, to put something cold into it itself, it will need to make it warm first. It can't digest the cold itself. It needs to make it warm, and then the hydrochloric acid and all that can do its work. So there's a specific temperature for digestion to happen. When you put cold types of food in your digestive system, it brings a negative type of impact to your health as well. Uchishtam apicha medyam. You are going for those foods that have already ended their life. Like as I told you that for this whole chapter, you can get the essence of staying in the past, staying in the future, and staying in the present. So this is staying in the past. So even with the foods, you're going to go stay in the past. Those that have already expired in the past, those are the types of foods that now you're going to get attracted to. Now, one thing that we normally do in our lives, we constrain ourselves. We eat one type of food, but then we want to do another type of action. We want to eat tamasa kind of foods, and we want to do action of rajasa type. At least what we can do is what type of action we want to do, give your body that type of food. If you want to sit without having anything in your mind and you can fully concentrate, whether it's studying, reading a book, anything, at least know what kind of food have you eaten just an hour ago. That will determine what residue is remaining in your stomach and what residue has been used up in your body. And know that each and every type of food comes with some type of quality with itself. Nothing in your life, whether it's physical or mental as an emotion or a thought, or even another person who is interacting with you, lives your life unchanged. Everything changes your life. Whether it may be even 1% or 0.001%, or it may be 30% of your life changes with any interaction. Any kind of interaction changes your life. So if you put that type of food within yourself, that is the same kind of food that is going to go into each and every cell of yours, into each and every part of your body. That's how you're going to feel that. Now, one thing is about the type of food. Another thing is about the quantity of food that you eat. It also matters. A person who is of tamasic type will just eat a lot, because having eaten a lot, you feel down. Like you can see that tamas coming into you. That's normal. And that experience we have. Now, a person who is of Rajasa type, what he will do is eat in a specific range, yeah? But then eat as much as helps him to do his work. That's what a Rajasa type of person will do. He will eat only as much as helps in his work. Something that keeps his mind attentive, always, in all cases. Something, eating such a quantity that keeps him awake, rather than something that keeps him down or tends to make him sleep. And then a Satwik type of person will just eat perfectly. Like even the verse in the second chapter, Yuktahara Viharasya Yukta Chestasya Karmas. He who is of Yukta Ahar, Yukta meaning in quantity and quality, in all ways. Not only in quality, not only in quantity, but in all perspectives. He will just eat the right kind of food, just the right amount, so his concentration is one way. Like it is like a needle, his concentration. He doesn't need only to be aware, but he needs his concentration fully on one thing. If he's reading a book, his concentration doesn't go anywhere. Neither does he need to move his body in any other way when he's doing a particular kind of work. So his whole body, not only his mind, but his whole body is concentrated onto one kind of work that he's doing. That is what a Satwik kind of person will prefer.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Yogeshwar. I want to tell you what I got from everything that you've said. I think this is a very profound point, and it's a very unusual point. Like first time I read it, I said, well, why is he talking about food? But it's a very, very deep point. It's about mind-body integration. It is the integration between what happens inside and what happens outside. And the fact that there is a feedback loop between the outer and the inner. And Gita throughout is focused on this integration between inner and outer. And this is a particularly beautiful way, a concretized way of showing that interaction in the context of food. Let's take the Satwik food. It is focused on giving you the energy so that you are alert, fully concentrated. Your mind is fully aware. It is giving you health. It is giving you bliss, peace, love, the right emotions in order to sustain. It is natural. It is optimum in quantity. The ruling word here is sustain. You're eating to sustain yourself. You're eating to sustain your body and sustain your mind and consciousness. You're eating so that you can keep going by your nature. You're focused on your nature. You're listening to your body. You're listening to your mind, and you're eating accordingly. In case of Rajasic, if the critical word for Satwik food is sustain, the critical word for Rajasic food is excite. You're going for variety. You're going from extreme things over and above natural things. You're focused on your desire about what you feel like eating now without seeing its consequences on you across time. You're engaging in fantasy. You're, instead of looking at reality of what your body needs, what your mind needs, it is primacy of emotions. You're looking for these titillating emotions, not on what the food is doing for you. If you want to look at the tamasic food, if the critical word for Satwik food is sustenance, one for Rajasic is excitement, I would say the word for the tamasic food is laziness. You are not taking the effort to get fresh food. You are making do with food which is way past the edible things. You're going with your inertia. And when you're eating, you're just filling yourself up so that you are in this mode of inertia. So you can see how the food is reflecting the inner qualities. On one hand, you can also see how the food is supporting the inner qualities and sustenance of that kind of interaction. In Rajasic food, the food is exciting you. So you are all pumped up. Sugar is a very beautiful example of that. It will give you a sugar high now, and you want that even when you know that you're going to get a low and that you're going to have to go having sugar all the time. So it is impacting what is happening to you inside. Similarly, the sustenance of food outside is going to make possible this concentration of mind. Similarly, the tamasic food is going to make you lazy. So it is, you're pursuing the food in a lazy way, and you're completely overtly full with food that you can barely digest and is of too much quantity. You're going to feel even more lazy. So there are these feedback loop which is supporting each of these three things. So that's what I got, Yogeshwar. Next, if anybody has any questions about this, go ahead and type an exclamation mark. Did you guys think that this was a good way? I mean, I thought it was really unusual way of showing you the relationship between inner and outer in a very powerful way. And so let's go with Ambika first. Ambika.
Hi, yes, I think it's fascinating to see these connections, because we're looking at the different natures, the different constitutions, the diet, and the work we do. And then it takes me back to the yogas as well. Wouldn't it connect there? I'm just curious about that.
How is it connected to yogas?
The karma yoga, bhakti yoga, all of those aspects on that bigger scale. If you're performing this or the other one, and then your diet comes down to, to all of this. And then also, as Yogeshwar, you were saying, you eat for the work you do, and you eat enough for the work that you can do. And of course, the other natures. So it's also fulfilling your nature. And we want to change that sometimes, but yeah, it seems to be all of these connections and layers. And then my question in terms of diet is, you need some things for digestion, which may not be in Satwik food and, ginger and things like that. So I wonder how that is balanced out on a different level.
Go ahead, Yogeshwar.
Yeah, so about the yogas first. What the yogas do are, in perspective, wherever you are, the yogas take you towards the core of your being. All of them, may it be bhakti yoga, dhyana yoga, all of them take you towards the core, from wherever you are. What these guna bheda do is show you where you are in your journey. Where are you? Have you gotten to the core of your being? Like, are you doing everything for what it is? Or are you doing it because your desires are pulling you? Now, when your desires are pulling you, what kind of desires do you have that are not aligned with the yogas? That is what these guna bhedas are showing you. It's like you're mapping out in the circle that Shrikant always puts. Now, you're mapping out, there is the center, there's the peripheral, but now you're also mapping out at the peripheral how it feels like when you're going more away. Yeah, as in, how do you know that in a yoga you're going towards the core, or are you going away from the core? How do you know it? Because it's always in circles that you have to move. It's really hard to get whether the circle is going inward or outward. So what these guna bhedas do is put the context really in, whereby you know that, am I going outward or am I going to the core of my being? Where is it that my journey is going towards? That is what this guna bheda does, these three types of prakriti, showing you how it manifests in your life, shows you these small outward characteristics of how your internal is. It's not exactly right of how your internal is, because you can also show these qualities outside. But then if you are true to yourself, like, what do I feel like doing right now? What are my desires right now? If you're true to yourself, it shows you a reflection that this is what you are right now. This is the journey that is still remaining, whichever yoga you are doing.
Wonderful. Go ahead, Yogeshwar, sorry.
Yeah. So, and then the last point that you asked about is something that is good for your body, something that you desire, and something that is good for your body. So that is the difference between a Satwik person and a Rajasic person. The Satwik person will do what is just good for their body. And then not only the body only. Now you see, sometimes we only look at the body, but then the body and the mind together, in how do they work in sequence? What is the best sequence that they will work in for what I have to get done? Now, some only think about the body, like they will make all the muscles and all the good protein stuff for their body. But then sometimes they forget the integration with the mind. Will my mind stay focused when I eat such type of food? Or will I be able to read for extensive times, extensive periods when I'm doing this kind of? So it is this integration of body and mind. And then also not forgetting also what nature has for you, rather than what you want to make out of nature. So all that integration, body, mind, and also what nature has naturally for you, to bring that integration. That is what the Satwik kind of person thinks about.
Thank you, Yogeshwar. I want to make one more comment. Another way I think about this is just, what are you consuming? And actually the same pattern applies to what you're consuming in terms of, for example, Rajasic person will look for things that excite him. And he will be kind of flipping channels to come up with something that excites them. Whereas a Tamasic person will come up with something, will be consuming something that just puts them in a torpor. And a Satwik person will be consuming something that is going to keep them energized, conscious, focused on learning the truth. Next up is going to be Allison.
It's funny, when you kept talking about ice cream, all of a sudden I started craving ice cream. So I wasn't even thinking about ice cream at all until your speech about ice cream. I went into the kitchen and I looked at the ice cream, and then I felt guilty after that speech. So I finished the last of my fruit earlier and I need to go to the store. So I found a 100% juice popsicle that I ate instead. But what I was thinking of is that actually what you're saying about the whole idea of like really as food as fuel. When I was younger, I was a dancer and I used to dance like 5 hours a day. All of my food that I ate was very, very carefully planned in order to give myself enough energy to get through everything. And if I didn't eat that way, there was no way that I could get through the classes. And then it also reminded me of, I had COVID very early before before the vaccines were available. So I was really quite sick. And my doctor gave me very, very strict instructions about what I needed to eat in order to fight the illness. And it really, ordinarily, if you're just kind of like living your life, you don't really think that much about how the food that you're eating is powering you through the day. But sometimes when your body is under really extreme conditions, like you need to do a huge amount of exercise or it's fighting a really dangerous illness, you really realize how strategic you have to be about exactly what your food choices are. So it's really interesting that the Gita mentions this so many years ago. So,
Yogeshwar, would you like to comment anything?
Yes. One thing that we should also notice in our lives, that when extreme conditions come, it's a good thing to think about these qualities of food or how it affects your life. In extreme, it's a must. Like when we're having some disease or something is impacting our health, it's really important to think about that. But then what I would like to say about that is, even when we are normal, like you're free of disease, right, at a particular point in time, if you can have the same amount of care for your body, how much more would it bring to your body? Like, how much more attention would you be able to give? How much more healthy would you be? Whereby it wouldn't take you towards that type of disease. Because so many diseases at this point in time are brought about food, like they brought from food. So many diseases in different various types and forms. So what if we could be conscious even at times when we don't have the disease? That would be even better.
Wonderful. Thank you. And I really like your example of a dancer. Say, what if you want to be a really good dancer? What do you need to eat? You really need to pay attention to what you eat. There is no way of being a great dancer without that. So that loop between the height of artistic performance and the food that powers it is perfect. Next up is Evanik.
When I was listening to your guest, we're talking about food and health, and then at the end, it was like, it just reminded me of choice, right? Like it was something you said, Shrikant, and you were saying, you choose what to put in your body, and then you're choosing, like, if you put things in your body that's going to make you lazy, then you're going to be lazy. And if you're lazy about the choice in the beginning of what to put in your body, like if you're just putting something in just to fill it up and nothing else, then of course you're going to be lazy. And then it's going to affect like all the areas of your life. So I get why the Gita talks about this, because you make a choice. Like, think about it. When you get up in the morning, you make a choice about what you're going to consume. Like, when you get up, you make a choice, and you can either put something that's going to fuel your body and fuel your mind throughout the day, or you could put something in it that's just going to make you lethargic. I can't say that word. Lazy throughout the day. And like you said, other things that you consume, like, I think of social media. And, there are some things that are great about social media. They give you valid information. In some cases, especially here in America, certain doctors will put on certain things like on YouTube to tell you how to fuel your body and how to fuel your mind or whatever. But then you can also consume things that are not so good, that just causes you anxiety or causes you to be stressed out. And when you make that choice, that's how you're going to be throughout the day. So it's all about the choice of what you consume. And it's not just food. It is food, but it's not just food. It's anything that you're choosing to look at and give your time to. And even your thoughts, like your thoughts are going to come and go. but what are you going to choose to focus on? Like, are you going to focus on that thought that's like negative? You're going to like run it to the ground and, or are you going to focus on that thought that, it's going to have you be productive throughout the day? Are you focusing on a problem that you can solve? If that's the case, that's great. And, you can solve that problem. But if you're focused on something that you have absolutely no way of being able to solve, then why are you focusing on it? And I think that's the key. Like, why are you focusing on this thought? Why are you, and I think that's the key, is like, why are you doing what you're doing? Like, if you're choosing the lazy food, why are you choosing the lazy food? If you're choosing to consume something that you know is not good for your mind, then why are you doing it? I think when you ask that question, it's key. And I think these verses in Gita make you question the why.
Yogeshwar, would you like to comment?
Yes, one thing that I would like to point out here is that, in Indian philosophy, there are these points that were put across the whole philosophy, is that, and this you get it by learning the whole philosophy on its own broad essence. I'm just telling you in like essence form. You can see that what Indian philosophy has done is that, yes, there's something like this, like the mind, which has two aspects. One aspect is that which you can control. One aspect is that which is not in your control. Then the same, like when you come more physical, the same is there with prana, with your breath. There is that aspect that you don't control it, it just happens. But then there's also that aspect that you can control it. It is twofold, it's not one-fold. And then even more physical are some of your actions. Some actions which become habit, like maybe scratching yourself, or some people even in meetings, yeah, they're just always maybe tapping the table or something, like, so that becomes a habit. That happens even without them knowing. And you'll tell them that stop tapping the table, and they will be like, I didn't know that I'm doing this. So it comes from your mind, something that is really hard to get, towards your prana, towards your actions. Now, what Krishna here is trying to do is, yes, we have talked about all the abstract things in the mind that go on, but then how does it reflect in your actions now? And yoga, like the Yoga Sutras, talk much about the middle, like the middle ground, which is the prana, which is the breath. There is an aspect of it that is not in your control, like your daily breath, how you breathe in and out. But then the aspect that you can control, why not have full control over it and know how it works in and out, how it can help you be more concentrated in whatever you're doing. Yeah. So that aspect of prana is there. Now, the aspect of mind is also shown in so many spaces, but then it's really hard to grasp. Now, why not take it, Krishna here, I feel, is saying, why not bring it more accessible to your actions? There's so many actions that you're doing which are just out of sheer habit, or because you do it every day, you're doing it. Why not now concentrate on those aspects of habit, or those aspects of action that you can control, and then make your view of concentration, or your view of control, larger, because the more you can control, the more of action that is in your hand, the more you can understand action itself. And now, since the action, the breath, and the mind, they're all the same in that aspect. If you can control your action, the more you can control your mind in the same relation. It's not like vastly different in that way.
Wonderful. Thank you, Yogeshwar. Next up is George, followed by Ambika. George, what's your question?
Thank you. Okay, I'm a vegan, so I suppose I'm in the good food group, but occasionally I have a CVS that's across the street, open 24 hours. I go there and get a Ben and Jerry's chocolate fudge. My question is, within this good group, is there an understanding or allowance for occasionally eating something sweet or something spicy? I don't, the other part is I'm not sure why people would be drawn toward the kind of food that gets spoiled. But basically, yeah, I mean, perhaps is there a balance, that's part of like eating in the healthiest way?
Go ahead, Yogeshwar. Yogeshwar, you have to unmute.
Sorry about that. Now, one aspect about life that Krishna is trying to say here is know who you are first. Yeah? So know the types of desires you have. Know what makes you happy for now. Yeah? Even right now, if something like laziness is making you happy, that I just need to be lazy right now. So know it first. Even Rajasic, first know it. Because without knowing it, you can never get out of it. Know why you need something spicy. Know why you're doing this. It's not about changing it right now, like I'll stop eating everything sweet from now on. What happens there is it will come back in another way. Yeah, it will come back in something. You'll start liking spicy things, or you like, maybe if you've left chocolate, you'll go to ice cream now. Or if you've left chocolate and ice cream, now you'll go to sweets now. So it's not about just stopping it right now, because it will come back in another way, form, or anything. What the Gita is about is know what you are right now, know what makes you happy right now, what you feel like doing right now. And then through the yogas, through the bhakti yoga, through the jnana yoga, through understanding what your body is like, what your mind is like, you can slowly have more control over it, because you know what it is. You know, if I'll do this, I'll do this. For example, eating changes your sleep patterns, like knowing such thing. How you eat also affects how you sleep. How you sleep also affects how you'll do your actions during the day. So knowing these things that interconnect, for example, like not only knowing the desire or saying that this desire is wrong, knowing that there's a desire to eat something spicy or something like a chocolate or ice cream, then knowing why this desire arose. Like, did I do some action that was related to that? Or am I consuming so much, like so many ads from social media or from TV that are showing me that this is profoundly something that I should get attracted to? Like, is it from outside or is it from inside that I'm getting this desire? And then even if it's from inside, then what have I slept in a way that attracts me to such kinds of food? Or have I eaten some kinds of food that take me to some sleep patterns? So everything in a way is connected, interconnected. Your whole life is. Whether it's your mind and your physical body, or even if it's your sleep and your actions and your food, everything is interconnected. So going behind the curtains, going behind the veils is the most important thing, rather than just changing what is at the front.
Thank you. I want to make one point. The Gita ideal is all about disciplined pursuit of the truth, disciplined pursuit of life, disciplinedly doing things which you know are good. And if you look at, and that's what Satwik movement is all about. In Rajasic movement, what you're doing is that you are going after immediate pleasure that you are expecting. So that is very different than this disciplined person. in case of the tamasic, you are too lazy. You're being too lazy to actually be disciplined or to even pursue excitement of the moment. You're saying, okay, I will just do the bare minimum. So those are the directions. I also think that your identification of the past, future, and present is a beautiful way of putting it, because all of it, past is a great way of understanding tamasic. Tamasic, I also had the hardest time understanding, what exactly is the mentality of a tamasic person. And I think the past, being focused on the past and not willing to exert effort in order to actually live in the present, requirements of life in the present. That I see that as a being distinction from between tamasic and Satwik. And Satwik and Rajasic is focused on the immediate pleasure, immediate, expected pleasure that you're attached to, rather than the, disciplinedly doing the right thing at the deepest level. It's just very excellent. Next up is going to be, let's see, Ambika. Ambika, go ahead. Give me just a second. Yes, go ahead.
So Yogeshwar, I just wondered if the whole Kaya Kalpa is in any way connected to some of this. Would Satwik be a process of Kaya Kalpa in any way?
Okay, Yogeshwar, it's not directly about Gita, so you don't have to answer it if you don't want to. It's up to you.
Sorry, I didn't also get the question like perfectly.
The eating for Kaya Kalpa.
What is Kaya Kalpa?
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, it's too far, Ambika. Is it a particular, like a system or something like that?
It's all part of Ayurveda because Satwik.
Okay, that's too large a topic. It's a different topic. We don't have enough base with everybody to understand all of that. All right. Let's see. Any other questions from anybody? All right. Let's see. It's 10:49. So what we're going to do is that we're going to start off. So we are up to 10. Okay. Yogeshwar, can you give a quick preview of what is the remaining of the chapter?
What Krishna has started in verse 7, because he has put 4 distinctions. One is about the type of food we eat. Another is about the sacrifices. The third is the tapa. And the fourth is the type of charity that we do, the type of donations we give. So first, Krishna has done the type of foods we eat. Now, using mostly 3 verses, Krishna is going to explain each and every category. So it's like about 9 or 10 verses that are going to do about the yajna, tapa, and dana. After that, Krishna is going to say, out of all these, what's the best way to do anything like in your life? What is it that makes the best of your whole life? What is the best of all prana? Krishna there is saying that Om Tat Sat. And then Krishna is going to go on to explain each and every syllable there, Om, Tat, and Sat. And with that, the chapter is going to come to an end.
Wonderful. All right, Yogeshwar, thank you very much. And we will continue with verse 11 tomorrow. Have a great evening, everybody. See you soon. Bye.